Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another Behind the Veil. It is great to see everybody. I am super excited about today's episode. But first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about our show. So originally, when we started Behind the Veil, it was really a way to help brides and vendors navigate the pandemic, because there were a lot of questions about when to move the date and how to move the date and what do you do in order to inform people. And as these shows have progressed, we realized that there was a lot more need out there and then a lot more information. And today is a perfect example of that. So today we are discussing mental health and wedding planning, especially in the age of COVID. It's not easy anyway, planning a wedding, and there's lots of opportunities for people to push your buttons, especially from parents who installed them. But when then you add the age of COVID, and then you talk about moving dates, and then you talk about vendor, and then you talk about people becoming ill, it adds just a whole nother level to the planning process. So that's why we decided today it was really important to talk about mental health and wedding planning during the age of COVID. First, I'd like to introduce our panel. Now, I will say that a couple of our panel members are missing today. One of them because they're up in Daytona where the storms are currently, and electricity knocked them out. But hopefully Nicole will be on soon. And then our other Tyler, unfortunately, recently had a small little accident, so he's off to the emergency room, but I'm sure he'll be back next week. All right, so first I'd like to introduce Marcy Guttenberg. And of course, Marcy, I feel so bad because every week I get your last name wrong. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Guttenberg?
It is Guttenberg, but I do often go by Gutenberg just because people call me that. So I answer to either one.
I am so sorry about that. And I've known you forever, and I can't believe I've called you Guttenberg this entire time. It just drives me crazy, and I feel really bad about that. So Marcy is the owner of An Affair to Remember by Marcy. She's our invitation specialist, and she's also the person that keeps us on track when it comes to etiquette. So hi, Marcy. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me, Keith. Always great to be here on Tuesdays.
I love these. I love our weekly show. Next, I'd like to say welcome to Brooke Logan Stoner. Hi, Brooke. It's nice to see you.
Hello, everyone.
So Brooke is our woman on the ground. She is fairly new to the industry, and she kind of keeps it real when it comes to what people experience. We're used to it on the event side of it because, we're professionals here, supposedly. And we've been in this industry for a really long time. But Brooke gives us a fresh breath of air and throws a few curveballs at us once in a while.
You keep it professional. I'm the wild card.
Exactly. You're the wild card. Anyway, so it's great to see you, Brooke. And then finally, I'm really excited to welcome our special guest. This is Dr. Tania Paredes. She is a clinical social worker in Miami with a private practice. She specializes in individual and relationship counseling, as well as treatment and management of stress, anxiety, depression, and more. She's a summa cum laude graduate of both the University of Miami and Barry University, where she is currently an adjunct professor for the School of Social Work. And then she's also a 1997 alum of the White House Department of Health internship, which I want to ask you about in just a second. Recently, she was just named one of the top 50 couple therapists in the United States. Incredible. And now she is, right? Incredible. Currently, she is the bereavement social worker at Nicholas Children's Hospital, where she provides counseling for the parents and families who've experienced loss. Dr. Paredes, it is great to see you, meet you. I'm so glad that you are here because obviously this is perfect.
Yeah, there's like a lot of things during COVID. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here with you, Keith. Thank you.
We have to be honest, I just wrote down some notes, and of course I just lost them. That I was just looking at the fact that we have a $74 billion industry that just came to a screeching halt. Overnight screeching halt. And that has implications far and wide. We're talking about not just the vendor side of it that lost all of their business, but we're talking about brides that all of a sudden, that the joy, the creativity, the anticipation.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And and what do you do with those emotions? And then not only that, but what do you do if you're a vendor? Because you have to be a rock for your client, but also you're worried about your paycheck. You're worried about how to keep your your employees on salary. I mean, there's a whole other world of stress and anxiety that comes with that.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I feel like we are now in the middle of August. So I think we're in like a different phase of what's happening with COVID. When we started this off in March, I think people assumed around April, May it'd be over, or we would kind of be out of it. And then I think when June and July hit, they were already starting to get fatigued. I think business owners assumed that everything would kind of start to come back, and that didn't happen. So by now we're, what is this, like 5 or 6 months in?
Yeah.
We're all people, right? This is a pandemic. So this is not just happening to Florida. It's not even just happening to the US. It's happening everywhere. So A, we're all in the same boat. And B, I think we're kind of in a sustained state of panic. And we've been like that since March. So I think by now, particularly in the event industry, like you said, Keith, it has been almost a dead stop. And the things that have begun to move forward are now moving forward almost to most people in an unrecognizable way. Yeah. And us adapting to what that looks like we almost don't have the coping skills to be able to deal with it.
And that's really what we're talking about, is the coping mechanisms. Because before, as an event planner, it was super easy for me because I've had experience about being able to watch the triggers that affect a bride, and seeing like the aunt that was feeling a little insecure and therefore was like, wanted to make sure that somebody was paying attention to her, even though it wasn't her day. And now we're dealing with a whole new world that I don't even have the coping. I mean, to put it out there, I just recently finally poked my head out of some depression that I have been dealing with for months. And, I think I'm 11 days happy, which is,
it's good.
To me, yeah, right.
Happy is good. Yeah.
I know. I'm thrilled to death that I'm on it. But, how do you, first of all, tell us what you think brides are dealing with on multiple levels? Because I think that, I just think about, a bride having to deal with her date being moved, but there's got to be more there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously from a practical standpoint, you have spent so much time and money picking a date. And to some brides, Keith, and I'm sure that you guys have had this conversation, dates mean something to people. So they may be getting married on their grandmother's birthday or a date that's very specific that rhymes with something. And so now that date is gone. So there's a really great article. I believe it's out on NPR. I could probably find it and post it up in just a few minutes. And it talks about anticipated grief. And that's really what's happening here, is that we are grieving the anticipation of what we will be losing, which is basically our way of life, right? And the loss of how we perceive that we're going to enjoy events and hug our friends and see our abuelas and be able to celebrate with them. That's gone now. And that's going to be gone for like a little bit. So we really have to pivot, if you will, in a different way in how we're going to be able to celebrate all milestones, such as weddings that are, to some people, they're like, we're going to go all out. This is our wedding. We're going to get married once. We're going to invite all these people and family's going to come from far away. That's very challenging when you have countries whose borders are closed. This country's restricting people coming in. There's people with compromised immune systems that it's downright dangerous for them to travel. So I think once people identify what it is, right, in the therapy world, we say you got to name it to tame it. So like if you don't know what it is, then how do you know what to do with it, right? So we name it. Okay, we're experiencing anticipatory grief. We are grieving what we perceive was going to happen.
Right. So Marcy, I just want to throw it over to a firsthand experience. Have you noticed any of your clients that have gone through kind of this grieving process, and give us an idea of what you see them going through?
I think I touched on it not too long ago. I had a bride who came in to pick up her invitations. It was literally about a month or two after COVID started, but about 2 months after it started. She had already placed her invitations. She was planning to go through the process. Her wedding is in November. And at this point, she is still unsure if it's going to happen. She's kind of thinking that more than likely she is going to need to change. And I mean, she broke down when she was here picking them up. I mean, picking up her invitation. She broke down, and I felt horrible for her. But I tried to ease her allays and her fears, and it just it's just sad to watch somebody dream of something so big in their life, and then that basically the rug is pulled out from under them.
Oh, it's horrible.
And I mean, she certainly understands the dynamic of dealing with all of the vendors and everything, but I think in her own world, her sadness really came from not being able to have the date she wanted.
Well, and the other part of that is that you don't want to sugarcoat stuff, because when it really comes down to it, you don't want to try to promise them something that you can't deliver, like, oh, it'll be fine by November. And I mean, I caught myself saying that a couple of times and going, I can't say that, because I don't know.
That's important, Keith, because what you're saying is that you are going to try not to happy it away. So I'm happy that that's not happening, because I think we're all very optimistic. So I shared this with you, Keith, the last time that we spoke, that I do the premarital counseling for people here in Miami-Dade County, and I also do it for a couple of churches. And I actually just checked last week on the weddings that were scheduled for one particular church in November, December, and I want to say 75% of those weddings are canceled, and the other ones that are in late December are kind of holding out. The reality is that they likely will have to change or postpone, because the church has its own parameters that they can do. So I think all of us here and every vendor that has a relationship with their bride and groom is able to hold space for that person. So I think it's fantastic, Marcy, that someone came to pick up invitations and they felt safe enough with you to break down. And like, it's okay to be sad. It's sad, that she's picking up her invitations, and she probably dreamed of these invitations, and you helped her craft it. And it was like you made a vision come through, and they're in her hand. And unless there's a date change and you redo them, they're going to stay in her hand, right? And so it's okay for us to like hold space for our people and say, wow, I'm so sorry, this is so difficult, and kind of sit and like let them be sad instead of like happying it away, which I think what a lot like to do, right?
Yep. So by the way, I actually just want to say hello to Nicole. I'm so glad that you were able to finally join us. I know that you're up in northern Florida dealing with the aftermath of a hurricane.
No, I guess there's just a major storm. There's some tropical depression or something, and it just like literally right before the show started, it decided to blow out our electricity and our internet. Our electricity's back on, but the internet is not up. So I'm coming from my phone. Sorry.
No, it's good. I'm glad that you're joining us. I know that you were listening on the phone to a lot of this, and as a business owner, I know that firsthand the effects, the emotional effects of what this has done to us. I mean, here we've got Dr. Paredes right here to ask any question. I mean, is there anything that you want to add or talk about?
Well, I do know that we're all on the same boat, and I know that sometimes we feel like we're very alone in this boat, even though it's affecting all of us. I guess everybody's journey is different. And it seems like there's good days and bad days, and I guess that's to be expected. And it's really, I mean, this is unlike anything many of us have ever dealt with. So it's, I try real hard to be kind with myself, but the thing is you've got different people in your household too, and their rhythms are different as well. So one day you're having a decent day and they're having a crappy day, or you're not necessarily all on the same page together, which makes it extra challenging. But
right.
It's any coping tools are awesome. And we were, like I said, we were listening earlier, but it's hard. It's really, really difficult. And we don't know when this is going to be over and for how long it's going to endure. And I think that's the hardest part, is the not knowing, the unknown.
Yeah. So, Dr. Paredes, I mean, she brings up a good question. How do you deal with not only and this could be taken two different ways. You could have actually a bride that is dealing with your entire family having to be the rock, because everybody's asking, what are you going to do? How are you going to change it? What date are you going to move it to? But then also if you're on the vendor side of it, how do you deal with your family when you are stressing about all of the different things you have to deal with? Plus you've got kids that can't go back to school, whose rhythm mean, any tips or ideas about?
Yeah. So now now we're in August, right? So I was actually just talking to a couple of colleagues of mine, and we've noticed that this week and last week, people seem to be a lot more on edge. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this as well. And what I think is happening is what I had said before, is that up until right about the beginning of August, people were like, oh, well, the fall will be better. Okay, we're going to be in, like lockdown through summer, and then we'll just be fine in the fall. And now we're here and it's not fine. And we're kind of in the same boat. And things at this point, people are starting to ask about Halloween and Thanksgiving. And that's like another month and a half away. But I think people intellectually know that that's not going to happen. And so we're in this constant sustained state of breathing. I think that Nicole made a very good point about being kind to herself. Listen, I've been a practicing therapist for almost 20 years, and I have never been so fatigued like I have in the last 2 months, because everyone across the board is not doing well. Usually in practice, you have some people not doing well, other people doing better, some people really actualized. Now everyone's is having a hard time. So we need to really recognize when we're kind of emotionally fatigued. Those of you guys in the event industry, you guys are used to happy events. You're used to people being elated and happy about their event, even though it comes with stressor, right? But a wedding, for the most part, is a happy event, or any other type of celebration. That's really clouded with emotions that you don't organically think are going to be part of a wedding. So this is a lot of juggling. Okay, well, we're still going to do a wedding. So let's talk about what are the things that I can control. And so as people in the event industry, I would probably start there. Think about what on your end, what can you control? Because if you can control that for the wedding party, great, then that's off their plate. So what part of your income is a little bit more within your power control, and be able to focus in on that. So I would like people to kind of start with that. And that goes also for people that are in the midst of having any kind of celebration. Focus on what is within your control, and the stuff that is not in your control, you really have to just say, this is the group of things that I don't control, and I just need to laser focus myself, and help your people be able to focus in on that too.
Well, and that's actually one of the things I've heard multiple times. It's like, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of other people. I mean, it sounds so cliche, no offense, but it really
true, I mean, but it's true. It's true. You can't pour from an empty cup.
That was good. Actually, and I actually just read something that says that your physical health and your mental health, those stores of energy come from the same place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if we deplete them, if you deplete one, you deplete the other. I mean, think about when you're in physical pain. Anybody, think about when you hurt your back. I mean, I hurt my back the other day because I'm sitting now for 10 straight hours that I usually don't. Usually I get up, I get my patient, I come back. That's not happening anymore. I'm right here for 10 hours. So I was in a bad mood. I was upset because I was in physical pain. So now imagine the opposite, right? So I've noticed a lot of folks that are getting married are now starting to complain about migraines, and my digestion is off, and I'm like, that's all stress. That's all stress. That is not, you had a bad lunch. I mean, maybe you did, but for the most part, it's stress. I mean, like I used to say, like, what did you eat? Now I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with the wedding? And most of the wedding folks that I had on my calendar sort of for the year, I mean, I want to say like 90% of them have canceled. Those that have reshifted how they're going to do it, I mean, they've gone from like 100, 200 people to like 10, which is great, but it's 10,
Well, and we talked about that. It is the, mourning the anticipated experience.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think about your wedding all the time, forever and ever and ever. It's like, oh, I can't wait. First dance. Everybody's going to be watching me. In that dream, you never thought masks or 10 people would be a part of it. I mean, and how do you help a client adjust that thinking? I mean, how do you help them go through the mourning process? Let's
talk about what we can control. Let's talk about that. If you want more than 10, 20, 30 people, in an enclosed place, how are we going to make everyone feel safe? So are we going to distance everybody? Are we going to require masks? How are you? Is your abuela coming? Where does she need to sit? Far away in relation to everybody. These are the things. These are now conversations that I think people probably didn't have before. It is no longer, okay, I need to keep my sister away from my older brother, so sit them apart. Now it's like, I need to sit people apart so that they don't contract each other in the event that they're positive. So now is everyone getting a COVID test before they walk in? Are you going to get a COVID test before you walk in? There's like a whole other language that, you know, even as mental health counselors, we need to think about in terms of the people that we're even going to be able to see, right? Within the event industry, you guys have to maintain your health for yourselves and for your families, but also for the people that you serve as well. So I go back to basics. What are the things?
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. So before you go into what you can control, Keith, I do think that you know, people need to focus in on letting the folks that are getting married understand that it's sad and that they're going to be sad. And again, don't happy that away. Give. Then take a deep breath. Okay, now it's now August. If we're going to do this in October, we now need to talk about what are we going to do. So, you know, I always say that whenever there's a dark cloud just past, there's brighter, you know, clouds that are not so dark. So right. Maybe now if you can't have a large event, maybe now you can focus in on food. Maybe now you can focus on a nicer dress because now you don't need to invite so many people. And so maybe you can focus on saving money for a house later, saving money for a nice wedding in the future. I actually had a bride who told me that it was a godsend that she couldn't do it because now she has a whole year to save up to do an event like she would have wanted to that they couldn't afford anyway now. So wow. That won't be everyone's situation, but there are some people that are actually glad for the time to be able to spend a little bit more money on like the back end.
Well, so that comes into, you know, obviously that breaches into a couple of other subjects, meaning like, you know, if they already have contracts, if there's deposits already down, what are the agreements with the hotels? I mean, and with that come additional stressors. And actually next week, we're actually going to be speaking with a contract lawyer and an estate manager to talk about, you know, some of those things. But, you know, today, I think I feel like it's super important to give at least a couple of ways for people to calm themselves down, right? And I know that, you know, deep breathing and all those things. I mean, do those things actually work? And, you know, and Brooke, we haven't heard from you. I mean, this is affecting you in a completely different way. I mean, what's your emotional world right now?
You know, Nicole said it best, and that's kind of where my head is every, you know, it's a journey for everyone. And I feel like everybody handles stress differently, you know, no matter whatever the situation is. And me being someone that worked 2 jobs that was never home, coming to a complete stop where I'm living in 730 square feet for 6 months. It gets, you know, and like she's the rhythms of other people in the home. And now it's getting to me where it's like, I just miss people. Like I see this, Keith, you're one of the same 3 people I see, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to let anybody over, and I really don't go out. So I'm being super safe and careful. But I mean, it's the whole, I miss people, I miss working, and then there's the financial side too. That's very stressful, and it's just I'm not having a good time. That's for sure. I mean, this is not a party at all.
Can I offer a suggestion, maybe for some kind of levity of sanity? You know, I applaud that you're being safe. I also am being very safe. I had shared with Keith earlier. You know, my son is 4. He's asthmatic. My daughter is 9, and my parents are 82 and 80, and they live with us. So we are the house of picture of compromised immune system. So nobody comes in here. My husband is the only one that leaves the house, and he's like almost in full PPE when he goes to Publix at this point, right? So I can't run any risk of it coming in here because it'll cut at least 2 of the 3 people that are compromised. So I applaud your efforts of safety. I want to encourage you to kind of pick one person that's not kind of the 3 people that you already see, someone that you're close to, is a support system for you, is like an old friend, and do a socially distant meetup. So you are outside, you are more than 6 feet away. I mean, I would encourage 9 to 10 feet away. You're on top of that, you're both wearing masks. You're in a shaded area, but you're far from each other, and just chat. And either take some Starbucks or take a glass of water or take a Coca-Cola and sit somewhere either when it's not so hot, or do something where you talk like a normal human being with mask and distance, but you have some sign of regular life. And that would do wonders for your sanity. Again, I'm not talking to have someone come in your house, but go find someone to kind of experience.
Well,
some kind of
actually,
normalcy with you. I just had my best friend here for 2 days that did my hair, so that was nice. A new person I haven't seen. So
well, and actually,
I didn't just have that. So
Brooke was just doing her bicycle tiara turn.
What is that?
Where she was riding around on her bicycle through her parking lot with a tiara just to have a little fun. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, Kelly came over. We put on our crowns and tooled and did a marathon around the complex.
Whatever.
That was fun.
Whatever works.
There may have been a bottle of wine or two involved in that ride, but I wore my seatbelt.
Well, and talking about coping, I mean, Nicole just recently, was it you or Mike that just celebrated a birthday and your kids did the whole restaurant out back?
Oh, that was me. It was my. It was a milestone birthday. I turned 25.
Oh,
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
The best 25 ever.
So we actually pulled out a bunch of stuff from our warehouse and set it up in the backyard. We had hedge walls, we had string lights, we had high boys, we invited like 4 people to come, which were our neighbors and people we'd already kind of been in contact with, so it wasn't any new people. But yeah, it was not the original plan was for the 25th was I wanted to take my entire family to Africa on a safari. That was the original plan, and we knew, okay, well, that was going to happen. Then plan 2 was I wanted a blowout party. I wanted to throw a rave with like cotton candy and dancing, and and that wasn't going to happen. So it turned out to be a very, very small event in our backyard, but it was still lovely. So.
Well, and we just got a comment that Mark Grassini has been doing distanced pizza night out on their covered patio once a week with their neighbors. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of right. That's a great idea.
Again, listen, we all have to maintain the integrity of our sanity somehow. Okay. Again, past June, people were like, "Oh, this will be done by August." Here we are. This is not going anywhere. Okay, we're looking at this. I think by now people are pretty convinced this will be for the rest of the year. Therefore, to maintain some level of sanity, what can we do so we can get through the week? And if that means distant pizza, or Brooke, if that means going outside on the bicycle, if that means taking a walk with a neighbor, distance with Matt, whatever it is that looks like, to be able to say, what do I need so that I'm not constantly feeling like I'm going to crack?
Yeah. Well, and so, by the way, if you guys are just joining us for the show, if you go to bit.ly/_behind the veil, or actually it's Behind the Veil Show, you can watch us on YouTube and be able to comment just like Mark just did. The other thing is, changing course a little bit, I actually just read a statistic that dating apps have had a massive jump in usage. I mean, talk about looking forward to the future, man. I think that we might be seeing a jump in weddings after this is done. What do you guys think? I mean, you think it's a possibility?
I was just reading something about that.
Right?
Well,
I mean,
yes. And then not only it's like running across all different ages, which is really, I mean, like even the mature, because like a lot of the mature folks who are, a widow or something, they don't have anybody. So they're doing meetups very safely.
Which is great, because I actually was watching a whole article about how they're doing dating during this age of COVID, and about how they stay 6 feet apart and they walk through the park, and then they have this picnic where everything's separated. But, after a bottle of wine, how much is social distancing is going to actually happen? I mean, because we've all been watching the stuff in the college dorms and stuff where everybody's super close. I mean, as a parent, there comes stress with that as well. So not only are you just talking about, wedding stress and vendor stress, you're talking about stress of watching what's happening with your kids. But so I'm going to go back actually to that comment that you just made about the elderly, because I heard recently that there has been a spike in randomly in STDs among elderly. Like, what? When did that happen? But that's a whole different.
They need love too.
Right, but that's a whole different show. So
well, I heard that this is kind of funny. One like assisted living facility was doing kind of a social thing where they were giving like wine and like tattoos, like temporary tattoos to the residents. So they were all getting a little bit funky and wild. Maybe that's where the STDs happened. I don't know. With the tramp stamp.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine my grandmother with a tramp stamp? I don't think that's.
I heard tell you something today. So this is so funny. Just speaking of it, so I'm walking behind this woman today who's wearing exercise clothes, and I don't know why I'm sharing this with you, but
because you might as well.
Because the back was entirely see-through, and I don't think it was intentionally see-through. I mean, what would you do in that case? Do you tell the person like, I can see your entire crack, or do you just like?
Yeah, right. And that comes with its own emotional abuse.
Yeah, well, I just felt bad for her. I mean, she's an older lady. She was really good shape for her age, but I'm looking at her entire butt crack through these leggings, and
you're like, no, not happening.
So, Nicole, it's been my experience that most people look at themselves well before they walk out the door. That may have been intentional.
Well, maybe she's looking for love, like you said.
Well, good for her.
Everybody
Right, good.
love.
Well, so I just recently read that there's a whole thing going on back to weddings, that, you know, the COVID crisis has created a relationship tester, and that people are actually saying, is it about the party or is it about getting married? And that's causing some stress between the bride and groom, because the groom is saying, wait, do you want to marry me, or are you more concerned about the party? I mean, Dr. Paredes, I mean,
if I had a penny for every time someone asked that question in front of me, because that is very much the case. So it's not like the wedding can't happen. It's about it happening, but just happening in a very different way. So, you know, this COVID situation, I think in general, has kind of stripped people to their bare minimum, right? So we now have to really look at our relationships and how we relate to others. And from an event planning standpoint, what are the things that are important to us? So is it important for us to have a big party and to be super luxurious in whatever way that we can? Or is it really about me and my partner sharing our love and somehow having a small amount of family around and still celebrating it? Or do I want to wait till I can have, 500 plus people at the event? So I think it's not unusual for that to be the case. But I actually think that that's a healthy question to ask.
So that you think that's actually a healthy question to ask? Wow.
I think all couples should be asking what I consider to be hard questions. Unfortunately, it's been my experience that when people get married, they're not talking about things that they should be talking about. Like, Are we going to deal with finances? Who are we going to invite? Why are we going to invite these people? Who's going to pay for it? What is important to us? Is the church important to us? Is the party important to us? These are values that we hold, that we just assume that we all know the answer. So I actually think it's great that people are lightly pushed to ask that question.
Well, but those answers to those questions are going to be wildly different now versus 7 months ago.
Right. But in theory, the unit, right, which is when I do premarital counseling, I say you are not you and that person. You're a unit. So if I'm going to talk to you guys about what's going to work as a unit, which is two people in a relationship, then all decisions need to be made as a unit. So the unit is going through COVID. The wedding of the unit is going through COVID. What do we find important of value to us? And how can I honor my partner and honor his or her, yet still have a wedding?
So one of the things that I want to address is obviously the vendor side of it, because we've talked a little bit about the bride side of it, about the groom side of it, but I mean the vendor side of it. How do we communicate with our clients in a way that is both healthy and also sticks to the facts? Because we don't have a crystal ball, and unfortunately at the very beginning of this, we were all hoping the best, and we weren't just worried about surviving. So we were worried about surviving through July. Then we were worried about surviving through August. Now we're worried about surviving through 2021, and at the same time, we have clients that we're trying to keep together. I mean, Any ideas, suggestions, or
Yes,
some tools?
I would probably be very upfront with clients on what is an expectation that you can meet. Some friends of mine and even some clients of mine that are vendors of large events, they've kind of had to pivot, right? So, for example, like some smaller vendors that maybe only focused on weddings now maybe pivoted a little bit, and now these drive-by birthday parties are like a thing now, and people drive by and they shift their focus over there. So if that, as from a business standpoint, keeps you afloat, or if you can't or don't want to do that and only want to focus on one aspect, I do think that you do need to be very upfront with your clients and say, here's what I can offer, here are the expectations, and then have that conversation with that client about that.
So Marcy, I mean, when we're talking about the emotion that comes with change of dates, I
Yes.
mean, obviously it's emotional already. What happens, or have you run into an experience where somebody had to change the date twice? Where they moved it to
Not yet.
November and November on?
I have clients who are in the process of setting up a new date, that the other ones are kind of like they're already either done or they've put it off for the time being. Then I have one that is in the process of selecting a new date. I have one that has already selected a new date. Of running the gamut.
Right. And then with that comes obviously some secondary emotions, because one of the things that I'm starting to find is that people that move their dates until November are now having the emotions all over again. Like it's almost like they got in 2 car accidents, and then all of a sudden it's like, they dealt with the emotion. They were like, okay, great, we have a new date. It's 3 months away or it's 4 months away. We can handle that. And now they're having to think about moving into 2021.
Keith, I don't know if I'm not sure sort of all of you guys have experiences, but this has actually happened to 2 of my clients. So, all of the folks that were getting married in 2020, from like March forward, right? Or, if people are not going to, keep it, are now moving those things to 2021. But people that are going to get married in 2021 have had their date since now. So
Right.
Now all the 2020 people are now taking over the 2021 dates, and some of those dates are not available because they've been taken over from people that were already going to get married. So I actually had a couple that has postponed their wedding 2 years forward because there's a particular date that they want, and they're unwilling to move the day and the month. So their wedding will be in 2022 because that's when it was available.
But I mean, that's such a long way away. And so what do? They mourn the date and
remember,
so much.
Remember what I said about value is that I sat with them and I said, if this date is important to you, then this is the option that you have. So be upset about it. It is okay. But then take solace that date, it's yours and you have it. And so to them, the date was very emotional. I think it was one of the groom's grandmother's birthday, or like the day of her passing, or it had a lot of significance to one of the grooms. So that's when they wanted to do it. And so they just shifted, their life plan. So they were going to buy a house after, they're going to buy a house next year. And they're just they just moved, they pivoted. We have to pivot.
So Marcy, in the Jewish religion, I know that numbers are a really big thing, right? It is a big thing, right? So would it be okay? Can a future date be picked and it still have the same significance when it comes to numbers? I mean, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but
that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, if it were a client of mine, my suggestion would be is if that date has a significance to you, maybe you as a couple can do a very small ceremony with the 2 of you and maybe, parents and siblings. And then at a later point, you can have the big wedding and you can still do it on the same date, just on a different year. But at least this way you're not postponing your marriage, because is it the marriage or is it the wedding that is more important to you? I mean, I would hope that, marriage is a sacred thing, and we obviously want to promote marriage being between the couple, because ultimately you have to live with that person the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of the couple. How committed are they to each other, and can they look past not having all the hoopla at that particular date, and you can still have your date and then have the big party down the road.
Well, and we keep coming back to the same question. We keep coming back to, is it about the wedding or is it about the party? And unfortunately, I feel like that's going to get a different dynamic. And I would actually encourage people that are going through that question to meet with a therapist, because I think there's a real need that it's not just about couple counseling. This isn't couple counseling. I think that there needs to be wedding planning counseling.
Yeah, a lot couples have, it's so stressful to plan a wedding. I mean, I've seen perfectly sane people just lose it over number of people. And I've had couples in my office like, are we sincerely arguing the difference of 5 people at this wedding?
Yep.
And it's just, but it's not right. It's not about the 5 people. To a lot of people, it's like the point and it's the principle. But as a therapist, my larger question is, we need to talk about problem solving skills. We need to talk about conflict resolution skills. This is your spouse. This is going to be your spouse. So you really have to band together with your unit mate and talk about what's important. I had shared this with you, Keith, when we met the first time. I've been married almost 19, almost 20 years. So I've been married and I got engaged. I was, I think, about to finish my master's. My mother-in-law was undergoing, at the time, breast cancer, which became lung cancer, and she passed away. Eventually, she became terminal. And when we were going to get married, we were 22. I was very young. And my mother-in-law came to me and said, please let me grow my hair out. I have no hair. I don't want to walk my oldest son down the aisle with no hair.
I get that.
And I said, no problem. We are 22. We have no money anyway. So you want me to save for another year? Sure. And that's what we did. I started working. We saved up more money, and we had a significantly nicer wedding because we were a year into our professions, and my mother-in-law had her hair. And so we had to pivot, right? It was an unexpected question. I didn't expect her to ask me that, but I think that it's what we were handed. And as a couple, we decided, you know what, let's buy a house, start, wedding planning for real. Let's do our career. So we just pivoted, and I think that's hard for people to do, but that's kind of the situation that everybody's in.
Well, and then you got to do 2 things. You got to be the savior, so to speak, and you got to save money. So hello, that worked out good for you. Well, so I was reading up on this, and so there were a couple of tips that I read up, and maybe Dr. Paredes, you can actually add to these. And one of them was forget balance and embrace harmony.
I don't talk about, to me, balance is such a nasty word that gets thrown around, and it gets thrown around, I think, a lot to women primarily at, like this concept of balance. Yeah. Which, to me, balance is a mathematical equation, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm here with you, right? That's what I'm 100% here. So how can I be like 100% mother when I'm here with you? It doesn't add up to me, right? So if you're in a space where your business, as a person in the event industry, is struggling, and you have to put all 100% there, then that's fine. But then that's a conversation with the people in your house of, so let's see how we can shift so that when it's work time, I can refocus. And then when I'm off, I can be mom, husband, wife, friend, daughter, whoever that is. So, balance is very tricky. I prefer to encourage people to be where they're at, wherever that is, and that's okay.
But live in the moment. Another one was know your triggers.
I love talking about triggers. So there's going to be things that are going to be really triggering to us, and there's going to be things that to other people, they can talk about it till the cows come home, and it's not bad. I repeat, as a unit, people need to really decide what are the things that 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to automatically get upset about it. So I need to really communicate with either my staff, or I need to communicate with my partner, with my family, about what are the things that I know are going to be like a match switch on.
So Nicole, what would be your trigger?
Well, I would say anything financial at this moment.
Right? You're like anything that costs more than $10.
So a lot of us, obviously, that watch the show are in the industry. We work in the industry where a lot of us are small business owners. So what is the doctor's advice? Because obviously it's crazy being out there and having sunk your life savings and working around the clock for years to build something and just have it swept out from under your feet. And I'm going to cry.
Oh,
So
don't
how
cry.
do you deal with that?
How do you deal with that?
So Nicole, listen, it's okay. It's I'm not going to tell you to not cry. It's extremely upsetting. I will tell you this. I think that, this comes down to survival. You've built this business. If you built it once, it's not that it's unbuilt. It's just on pause. It'll come back. You may not know when, but it will come back. So in the time that it's on pause or on like a little bit of mute, is there maybe some aspect of your business that you can maybe focus in on that you haven't had a chance to focus in on because you've been going so hard for so long? When you've been working within your industry 10, 15, 20 years, you go so hard for so long that now it's like a slowdown. So is there another aspect of your business that you can now shift and maybe be able to focus in on that? Is there something that you can cut a corner so that money can be funneled in here? Because you don't really need to put it, over here. I think that as small business owners or even as medium-sized business owners, people need to have a conversation with themselves and their staffs about what are the bare bones I must make X amount so that everyone can stay afloat. And that means hard choices. I mean, if you have employees, those are hard choices. But it also means, okay, how can we come together to make sure that we can make some of this happen?
Well, so I've actually taken that to heart because during this time, obviously we've upgraded our system here, our publishing system. I've done a lot more social media. I've figured out how to market a little bit more smarter. But I had to go through the depression first. I mean, I had to go through that sadness first, and it's pretty hardcore. I mean, it's a dark cloud that comes in over a vendor. I mean, I know that Mark, who is watching us right now, has he has rental plant, and he's had to really scale down his business. But luckily, it's scalable. He said, he had actually said to me, luckily it's scalable, and I'm able to scale it. But there's some people that just don't have a scalable business. There's entertainment companies that have, DJs, bands, warehouse, a showroom, overhead.
Yeah. And those are, hard choices. I try and be optimistic and I try and remind people this is a time period of life. I know it's never ending. The reality is that this is a longer time period, but that means we just have to figure out a way to make it to the end. And either if that means reinvent a part of our business that was kind of dormant. A friend of mine on the side, I mean, she's like a single mother, works so on the side, she had like a balloon business. She would make balloons for like kid parties. It totally was a side job. It became so lucrative because now people are doing these ornate balloon things for these drive-by birthdays. And in Miami, everyone has a drive-by shower, drive-by baby gender reveal. I was like, really? People are doing okay. And she makes these elaborate balloon things and people put them outside and everyone takes a socially distant picture. She's killing it in doing something that was a side hustle. So she was able to pivot, but some people may not be able to pivot. So how can I sort of refocus my tools and my energy and my staff, if I have it, and my money into building what was, so that when things can come back to normal, because that will happen, having it come back up.
Well, so, Nicole, Squirrel Table, I'm just going to say, Squirrel Table, I love your Squirrel Table.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's Michael's thing. I just help him a little bit with it. But, I mean, it's, we've definitely cut corners. We moved into a smaller warehouse. We got rid of storage units we had. We got rid of extra, we just got rid of dead weight that we were just carrying, like materials and things. I mean, we've cut to last, and that's what we've done. And we're looking to bring income in other areas that we can, but I know everyone's in the same boat, so it makes it easier and harder at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah,
it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the other things is one of the other things that I read was minimize stressors, which makes me laugh because I'm like, how do you minimize not being able to pay your rent? I mean, that's a stressor for me. I mean,
so yeah, there's some realities that people cannot escape from. I think when people say, what are your stressors, let's minimize them, there are certain people or certain things that are your deep support systems. You know, I kind of feel small business owners now know who's behind them and know who really loves and support them, and who are the people around you that truly are your cheerleaders, because this is the time for those people to come around.
yes.
Right? Because that, I think when people say reduce your stressors, so are there things, for example, if you have a very large warehouse space, Nicole, and you've been able to downsize because you had to, okay, well, that's X number of dollars that you're not spending. Okay, it's still a stressor because I still have to pay a warehouse space, but I'm not paying 10,000 square feet. Now I'm only paying 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, for example, right? So that's a good example of reducing their stressors, because you're kind of responsible for less than you already were.
Well, and actually, Nicole, I mean, you were already working on that before all this hit, and gosh, think about what it could have been when you had the two houses, the two warehouses.
No,
I mean, God.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're thankful we made choices that we made before all of this hit, and I just it's you know, it's hard because I feel for all my friends in the industry, and I feel for our clients, but especially our friends in the industry, because we are all going through it together, and there's nothing that we can do about it. There is nothing that we can do to change the circumstance that we're in. This isn't, you know, so we and but you know, it's just and it is pivoting, and it is trying to think. Yeah. And an interesting story, I talked to a client today, actually. They have a wedding scheduled in October, and now the wedding is in their backyard, and instead of at a venue, obviously. And they were buying things like they were buying alcohol, actually, since now it's just in their backyard and it's not at a venue and stuff. So they were buying alcohol, or they were buying wine, or they're buying little things times at time, just to kind of accumulate it now.
Yeah.
And to kind of still feel good about the process going forward. So,
yeah, unfortunately, you know, I don't know if I could accumulate that right now. I'd be like, I'm gonna buy a mask. Okay, yeah, good luck with that. I mean, like, it's already here. Might as well enjoy.
I just thought it was.
Oh, go ahead.
Keith, can I offer a suggestion of something called grounding? Have you ever heard of grounding?
No.
So grounding is sort of a old trick that we use in the therapy world. I didn't create it. It's kind of an old cognitive behavioral technique. It's kind of like in my quick grab bag. So when you have a minute, Google grounding or how to ground. It's a way for when you're kind of trapped in anxiety and you're trapped in panic and it just seems like the walls are closing in and you're kind of working your way up to an anxiety attack, you need to ground. So you need to stop. So you need to wake up your conscious mind by saying outside, out loud or in your head, stop, look around, scan the room that you're in. So name something you see, take a deep breath, smell the air. If you're outside, what does the air smell like? Do you smell flowers? Do you smell, is it wet? Is it going to rain? Smell. Yeah. What do you taste? So if you have water or something near you, what do you taste? Use your hands and touch something. What are you touching? If you're outside, is there a tree? Touch the ground. Stomp your feet. Have your feet touch the ground. You're engaging all of your senses, including what do you hear? So if you're outside, do you hear birds? Do you hear the wind? If you're inside, do you hear your ceiling fan? You're engaging your senses to bring your conscious mind into the now. It sort of forces you to become present, and it will reduce the anxiety if done consistently when you feel like your anxiety is going up.
And by the way, so Nicole, Mark says, oops, wrong one. Mark says, nothing can take away your considerable talent. Aw, thank you, Mark. So that is one thing, actually, is that your talent comes with you. It cannot be controlled by the business or the COVID or anything. That is who you are. And that's something I would say to all our vendors and all of our friends out there is that, your considerable talent comes with you regardless of what is happening. And there'll be a time again that hopefully that we'll be able to rebuild. One of the things the last thing that I'll talk about is somebody said pay close attention to blocks, and I love this because I actually have some brides that do this because they will avoid appointments or events because they don't want to have to deal with the person or the thing that is happening during that. Right? Like they don't want to talk to their band about moving their date because they're worried about what's going to happen. They're going to lose money. They don't want to talk to their photographer because they're worried about, and the same thing comes with vendors. We're doing the same thing. We're blocking. We don't want to talk to our landlord. We don't want to talk to our credit card association because we're worried about what that's going to entail.
So we talk about this in therapy and we say, you got to go right through it because if you go around it, it'll wait for you on the other side. So this is the part where you got to go, you got to put your head down and you just got to go, I need to make that phone call. I have to talk about my niece. I have to talk about, again, the only good thing, if you can extract something good out of what's happening, is that this is not just happening to you. This is happening to the globe. So it's not like there are people that are going to be unsympathetic. You need to go straight ahead and almost be proactive. Look, let's see what we can control right now. Because in 3 months, I don't know what the situation is going to be in my business, for my event in 3 months. So always go right through something and not go around. Avoiding is, not necessarily a good idea because it'll wait for you on the other side.
So we are almost out of time. And I just want to say thank you, first of all, to Dr. Tania Paredes. Thank you so much. This has really been informative and enlightening. And I hope that it helps people out there realize that they are not alone, that the feelings and stuff that you're going through emotionally, everybody's going through, and varying degrees, obviously, because all of us are as unique as snowflakes. But that seemed weird during the political upheaval that we're in the middle, right? But you understand what I'm saying, right? We're all going through it, and it's a difficult time, and there are ways to help try to manage the stress. No, we're not going to be able to change the world overnight. Miracles are probably not going to happen, but we can hope, right? So final thoughts, Marcy, final thoughts?
Just pay attention to what's triggering you and try to, as Dr. Paredes said, try to keep an open mind about finding that center of your, the center, so that you can get through tasks on a case-by-case basis, but get through them so that you don't have to deal with a bunch down the road. The less you take off of your plate, the less stress. The more you take off of your plate now, the less stress you'll have later.
Absolutely. And how about you, Nicole? Any final thoughts?
I apologize for the storm in the background, the thunder and the lightning and everything else. That's definitely out of my control. I can't control that. So, but it was very informative. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening and hearing the doctor's opinions and ideas and ways to cope in this trying time. Thank you.
Love it. And Brooke, any? Actually, we'll start with Dr. Paredes. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah. So I've been taking advantage that I'm completely virtual now, and I have a little camera. So I adapted. It's on my Instagram. All of these little notes that I've been showing to people. So I want to leave people with these 2 notes.
One day at a time.
And then this one.
Yes.
Okay. So these are the things that I want people to focus in on. Okay. Just survive, and one day at a time.
I think that's super important. And by the way, if you're interested in following the doctor, her Instagram is you can see it on the ticker tape below, as well as her website. And then, of course, Brooke, final thoughts?
How do you follow that? Actually, honestly, this kind of fits some of the theme today. Nicole, I love and I miss you. Thank you for coming on. I've been missing you, and I've been asking about you through Keith. And I know it's tough, but it will get better. And honestly, like Tuesdays is I put makeup on Tuesdays. I do shower more than once a week, but like this gives me something to look forward to. This is something I actually set my alarms. I wake up and I get ready and I get to feel beautiful and a part of something. And Tuesday at 2:00, if it weren't for all of you guys, I wouldn't be doing this and I wouldn't have something to do. So thank you all for that.
Well, and I just want to say thank you once again to our panel, Dr. Tania Paredes. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, Marcy Guttenberg with An Affair to Remember, Brooke Logan Stoner, and Nicole with Play Events. It has been an honor. I will just say, as my final thoughts, guys, it's a difficult situation out there. It is important that you find somebody to talk about. Mental health is not something to mess with. If you feel yourself going down a dark path, it is important and vital that you find somebody to talk about. It is absolutely normal. It is nothing to be ashamed about. We are all sad at different times in our life. What would be a shame is you not getting the help that you need. So please reach out to somebody. Obviously, you can reach out to Dr. Paredes. Her Instagram and her website are below. There's several free services throughout Fort Lauderdale and well, actually South Florida that are on sliding scales. There's multiple options there. But please don't try to go through this alone. We are all going through this together. So I know that it feels like, yeah, everybody's going through it together, and sometimes it even makes you feel even more alone, but don't let it. Right? It is important that you keep yourself in a place, because right now it is just about survival. So next week, I want to say thank you to everybody that joined our show today. Next week, we actually are going to have a contract lawyer join us to talk about contracts, especially during the age of COVID, how to make sure that they're rock solid, both on the vendor and on the client side, to make sure it's rock solid. And we are also going to have two people on that are going to talk about estate management. So one of the things that you forget about is that because we're pushing off weddings, what happens if you push the wedding off and one of you becomes sick and oh my God, dies, and then their estate is left? You two are not married. What happens to the estate if you do not plan? So next week, and welcome Paul Grijalva. Who is our contract lawyer, and then estate planners Christine Gill and Wendy Volley. Both of them are PAs that are going to be talking about estate management. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Please join us next Tuesday at 2:00. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody.
It was such an honor to have everybody on, and I hope people learned something today. Yeah. All right, bye, guys.
Yes.
Everybody can just get quiet. All right.
This was wonderful. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.